So I was showing you that under Spearman, there is a challenge there where we have at 5%, at 1%. But above this, there is a point which says significant if the magnitude of rho exceeds. So whoever was asking about a negative correlation you've got, when you get the magnitude of a negative, you get a positive. So the magnitude of -2, the magnitude of -2 is +2. So you don't mind the negative, you just read the value as it is. Now, my friend who had the challenge, give me an example of an answer you got. 1.00, 0.89, 0.75, 0.71, 0.68, 0.65, 0.60. Then this one began with 1.00 here, 0.89, 0.86, 0.83, 0.79, 0.74. Then you should match it with the number on the other side. Number of what? Pairs. We had number of pairs. I wanted someone to give me an example. Okay, let me assume. My network today doesn't seem to be comfortable, and yet this is the best spot I have here in Gombe. So I wanted someone to give me an example, but it seems you guys never did the numbers. Yeah, but I wanted to check an example by having n is 10, and then maybe I have a correlation of 0.8667. Now, if I have a correlation of 0.667, I can assume, I can take a consideration of the other table I've showed you. I look for the degree of significance at 5% and at 1%. At 5%, where 10 is, in the number of pairs, this is number of pairs. Where 10 is, we have 0.63. At 1, we have, no, this is 0.65. Then at 1%, we have 0.79. Now, they can ask you to test the degree of significance at 5%. Remember, the table up here reads the magnitude of the correlation coefficient exceeds. If it exceeds at 5%, then it is significant. If it does not exceed, then it is non-significant. Now, this is 0.8667. It is greater than 0.65 under 5%. So it means it is significant at 5%. When I come to 1%, is this answer I've got, whether positive or negative, is it greater than 0.79? Yes. If yes, it is also significant at 1% level of significance. Otherwise, if, for example, the answer we had got was 0.5444, then this 0.544 is less than 0.65. So there it wouldn't be significant at 5%. Likewise, 0.544 is less than 0.79. Even there it wouldn't be significant at 1%. I don't know whether I've tried to make some sense there. My friend who had the question mainly.
Yes, teacher. And teacher, by the yes, teacher. And by the way, like when I get negative 0.544 8667.
Mm.
On commenting as my coloration. So on commenting on the result, do I still say it's a negative very high coloration
Yes,
or
this is when you say it's a negative
something?
very high correlation. If it is like negative 0.0045, it's a negative very small correlation, or it's a negative very low correlation. If it is positive, it is a very small positive correlation. If it is a positive and it's high, it's a positive very high correlation. Those comments, by the way, are very technical because they carry a full mark. Whenever the question says comment, you know there is an accuracy mark there, A1. Or test the degree of significance. There is also an accuracy mark, A1. So you need to have those answers and you need to know how to make those comments. Okay, any other concern on Spearman? Otherwise, if not, I'm ready to go for indices or index numbers. But I wanted to first air out some of those challenges because some people had posted them. Then there's someone who was asking me questions on series. I did answer your questions. I hope you got the answers. Others, I don't know whether you're trying out numbers because others are not responding. You're not sending numbers to my inbox. And yet I asked you to always send numbers in case you get challenges. Okay, so can I move to the next item, if no challenge? So today we are having a new topic, which is a new heading. And this heading is going to have what we call index numbers. Those who offer economics, you will find them also in economics. They are called price indices in economics. But for us in math, we call them index numbers. Okay, so we are saying we have index what? Index numbers. Even those of us who will go and do accounting and business administration, we shall land on this area and we should be in position to handle them when they are asked in one way or the other. But if you have the knowledge from here, when you land on CPX statements or quantitative techniques or business math or accountancy at university, you'll be better students. Now, an index number is a single figure. An index number is a single figure summarizing a comparison between two sets of figures. Now, all of us have heard of what they call, we've heard of what they call cost of living, standard of living. You say your standard of living has risen. Now, who knows the price of meat? What is the price of meat now?
A kilo of meat is 14,000.
14,000, for example.
14.
14,000 also. This is in 2020.
Yes, 13.
13,
Yeah.
Okay. Now, who
14.
remembers its price in 2015?
8K.
8K, very good. This was in 2015. So we can compare the price of meat for these 2 years. That's why we are saying index numbers summarize, give a single figure summarizing the comparison of the price of meat in 2015 and 2020. So if the price of meat has gone up in 2020, it means the cost of living has gone high. It means for you to live in that area where they are selling meat at 13,000 a kilo, you have to have the capacity of getting money more than that a day in order to eat meat. Then it also means that the standard of living has also grown because cost of living induces a high standard of living. Now, with this, we introduce what we call a base year. A base year. And this is the year which we use to compare all other years. So it's the year against which all other years are compared. Then we have another year which we call the current year. The current year or year period is the year for which whose index is to be calculated. Now, this, according to the years I've given you, this one becomes the current year, 2020. Then this one becomes the base what? The base year. One thing you should know, the base year is always the year before. The current year is the year after you're comparing it with. If I want to compare, for example, let me give you an example. I don't know whether you've heard of our stories with the teachers. That in 1980, 86, 89, teachers were earning 3,000 shillings. 3,000 Ugandan shillings, Museveni's money, UGX. A teacher could not afford to buy a trouser on his salary. Because the trouser was 5,000 by then. But now trousers are 80,000. We are dressing trousers of 100. The smallest is 50K. Now, what does that mean? It means the cost of living has gone high. Now, that was our salary. So we also what we have wage. We shall see what we have, what we call wage index, quantity index, and price index. I'll give the definitions later. But I want to give you a reference of what happens in society. Now, when Museveni came, he increased the price, the salary of course it was Museveni's time, but in 1990, increased the price, the wage or the salary. Okay, Abigaba Martin wants a review. I've just introduced these definitions, Abigaba, whereby we have an index number as a single number which summarizes the comparison between two sets of figures. And then we have what we call a base year, against which all other years are compared. And in this case of these two examples, the base year is 2015. Then we have a current year. The current year is the year whose index is to be calculated. So for example, my year is 2020. Now, I was giving an example that in 1989, teachers were earning 3,000 shillings. But in 1992, teachers were increased, their wage was increased to 12,000. This is 1992. They went on increasing. As I speak now, teachers we are earning, for example, me a science teacher, if I earn 960,000 a month, that is government salary, without the PTA for the schools we teach in. But this is the net government gives you, then the schools top up. But if I give a total earning, this is now 2020. Now, it means if I get to reach a point where I earn 2 million, for example, as a teacher, maybe this is by 2024, then they can ask my wage index in 2024. One, taking what? Taking 2020 as the base year, or taking 1992 as the base year, or taking 1989 as the base year. I cannot take 1989 as the current year, and then I take 2024 as the base year. No, the base year is the year before, then the current year is the year which is ahead. So we need to have that clearance. So those are the basic definitions. The current year can fall before the base year. For example, a current year can be 2005, and the base year can be 2015. But now that comes when you're looking at an advanced comparison, which is a little bit technical. But at this level, we shall just talk about the forward current years, the current year which is always ahead of the base year. So those situations are rare, where they do a comparison of this year basing on, they take this year as the base year and then they use the previous year. It is very rare, but it can be possible, but it's done by those economists who are looking at a point of seeing how far the country has grown. So these items are the ones that go ahead and also predict for us the GDP of the country, the cost of living of the country, the standard of living of a given town. Me, when I was still schooling in my primary, we are the people, Rolex began with our year. It was, I think, 1994, 95. 1995, a Rolex was 300 shillings. 2 eggs, one chapati, cabbage, one full tomato, a very packed Rolex. But of late, hey, one Rolex shares 5 Rolexes. They can cut one tomato on 5 Rolexes. So they are not as heavy as the Rolexes we used to have by then. Then the eggs also, even the chapatis were huge. But now, the first Rolex is 1,000 shillings. It means even in Katanga, in Iwaise, those Kwara areas in Banda, those areas which are not developed, those slum areas, their cost of living has also increased. Because if the Rolex in 1995 or 94 was 300 of 2 eggs, and now for 2 eggs is at 2,000, I think, 2,015, I don't know. It means the cost of living also in that area has done what? It's 2,000. So it means the cost of living has increased. Now, let's go to what we need to see in terms of calculations. One item, index numbers. We shall start with one item that I want to look at, for example, a Rolex only, or meat only. We need to get what we call the price relative. We get what we call the price relative, or sometimes it's called the price index of a commodity. So this commodity is one. It is represented by PR or PI. Sometimes it is P prime. So price relative is the same as price in the current year, which is P1, over price in the base year. Okay? But expressed as a percentage times 100 what? Percent. So where P1 is price in the current what? In the current year. Then P0 is the price in the base year. Okay? We can also have, these are now price relatives. We can also have what we call the wage relative or wage index. If your father was initially earning 1.5 million as his starting salary, then after 2 years, he's raised to 6 million. Then after 3 years, he's now earning 12 million. Trust me, when your father begins earning 12 million, he will not spend the same way he was spending when he was earning 1.5. When he was spending 1.5, he used to live a low life. You could eat meat only on Sunday or Friday, once in a week. But if he gets 6 million, he can step it up. Then you eat meat like 3 days a week. Then 2 days you eat chicken. Then one of the meals intermediate, you get beverage, you get vegetables, maybe fresh beans or kauro or cow or something. When he gets 12 million, hey, he designs a timetable with a heavy breakfast with sausages and chips, with toasted bread, with juice on breakfast and tea and porridge. Lunchtime, you have a menu. Supper, you also have a menu. Or others, if they get like 50 million a month, they can even decide that in my home, lunch is always at Serena. Lunch is always at Cafe Java's. You know what is happening? What is happening is when this guy gets more money, his wage index, if it increases, his cost of living will also increase. And thus his standard of living will rise. If your father was earning 1.5 and he was buying for all of you clothing from Owino, when he gets 6 million, he starts going to arcades. When he gets 50 million, hey, you go to Dubai. All of you shopping. Christmas shopping, Dubai. Eid shopping, Dubai. That is what it means. What is determining that is what we call the wage relative or the wage index. When his wage index rises, he has to change his standard. If I get some more money, I change my car from a Raum to a double cabin, maybe Hilux, I don't know, or a Ford double cabin. Then I'm like, yeah, now my status has risen. It means the fuel I've been taking, if I come to Gomad, I take 50K. When I use the other Ford, I will take maybe 200,000 or 150,000. So all those mean the cost of living goes up as the what? Standard of living also rises. Murunji Kevin, you raised the hand. Can you say something? So the wage relative is given by
Teacher, what if? Teacher, what if my wage, the wage index, what if the wage increases, but I don't want to I'll stay shopping.
My friend, it is very hard. You just look at yourself. When you have pocket money at school, just tell me, when your father gives you 100K as he's leaving to go home, and you are at school, when do you eat posho? Do you eat posho every meal if it's posho? Or beans? Do you do that?
No.
But when the pocket money starts reducing, when the pocket money now remains like 20K, you start buying what? Salad, avocado, you buy carrots, tomato, you start mixing with the food. You start eating posho. Seriously. There you are reducing the cost of what? Living at school. But if you call home and they send more money, hey, you pause. Let me go back. Zombies, chapati, tomato sauce, chicken, if there is roasted chicken, if there is roasted meat, I've seen in Gombe here, they do those things. Rolex every now and then, Rolex. When the money games, you stop. So money is a pulling factor to increasing people's standards of living. Haven't you seen people, when they get corporate jobs? Me, when I was teaching on NTV, they told me I should never eat from Katanga, Bwaise, all those funny areas. Hey, I'm like, I don't have that kind of money. They said, no worries. Lunch, we shall take you to Dowinton. They paid for a restaurant in Dowinton. That's where we used to have our meal from. Secondly, not taking border bikes. We should not sit on a border bike. We are like, but we don't have transport. They ordered for us a Benz, which was driving us around. So they had to increase our standards of living to match the standard of the TV station. You get the points? So these factors, these parameters are measured by these index numbers. Okay? Murunji, you had raised the hand. Is your hand still up?
No.
We also have what we call the quantity relative. The quantity relative or quantity index. The quantity relative can be got from the quantity in the current year over quantity in the base year times 100%. For those of us who have been here for some time, we have seen factories. I have seen, for example, Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola now has a plant in Imbarara. I don't know whether Pepsi also has a plant in Imbarara. But in my time, we had only one Coca-Cola. Do we have one for Pepsi in Imbarara?
No, teacher.
We have only, let me use Coca-Cola. No. It means, for example, in 2000, if Coca-Cola was producing 1 million bottles a week for people to take, right now it could be producing either 5 million or 10 million a week because it has two plants. So in 2000, the quantity produced was 1 million. In 2020, the quantity produced is 10 million. So they can ask you to compute the quantity index, the quantity relative, how much production is going on by Coca-Cola as of now. That can help you be predicted by what we call the quantity relative or the quantity index. And there you can get to know whether the factory is improving or decreasing. If Coca-Cola in 2000 was producing 1 million, there is a brand of soda which was called Schweppes. I don't know whether you guys have ever heard of it. Most of you, I think you're born of 2000? I think you're born in 2000, most of you. What is your average age? 2000, 98? When are you born? Someone be honest.
2000.
2002.
Okay, you've never
Two.
seen Schweppes. Okay. Now, there was a
1995.
brand of soda called Schweppes.
2006.
Okay, thank you. You can't be 19. Now, that brand phased out. But that brand was the way you see Coca-Cola and Fanta. The one when you
So
take
which brand?
Schweppes, but I think they have tried to bring it back. They had
So
a
it's
branch,
still
it was
there.
in Masaka, and they used to make soda from pineapples. Their soda was delicious. But Schweppes, there is a way it went down. It went down, and now if I'm to test the production of Schweppes, I've seen some few bottles in big supermarkets. You'll see that maybe Schweppes right now, they have around 100,000 bottles produced a day. But by then they had maybe 500,000. So if you compute their quantity relative, it means the factory is depreciating. The factory is collapsing. The investors have to take caution. The investors have to put in energy, and then they do something better to improve the production of the sodas. So these are the three main aspects we shall discuss. Since I've mentioned them, I can now take you straight to examples, unless someone has a question among the things I've mentioned. Timothy, you've raised the hand.
Teacher, is wage index the same as weighted index?
We shall see the weighted index. The weighted index talks about more than one item. Okay? When there are more than one item, we shall bring in what we call the weighted index. All right?
Okay, teacher.
Here we are still dealing with only one commodity. You deal with only one item and tell us its price in the current year, tell us its price in the base year. Then we compute its price relative or its wage relative. So let me write down an example. In January 1986, the price of a packet of biscuits was shillings 3,000. And in 1887, the price of a packet of biscuit, the price had increased to 5,400 shillings. Using, sometimes even they tell you, 1986 as the base year, determine the price relative of a packet of biscuits in 1987. So here you first identify the current year price is 5,400. The base year price is 3,000. They're asking for the price relative. The price relative shall be price in the current year over price in the base year times 100 what? Percent. This will give us 5,400 divided by 3,000 times 100%. I lose the 2 zeros, lose the 2 zeros. By 3, by 1 0 that. By 3 here once, 3 goes in 5 once, remainder 2, 18. The answer is equal to 180%. Now, sometimes they ask us to comment on the price relative. So how do you comment? You comment by saying the price of a packet of biscuits has increased by 80%. So when they ask you to comment, you give that comment, guys. Do I have any question on that presentation? Someone has a chat. I am not seeing the white screen, so I'm going to leave and come back. Nicole Mbabas, what is happening to you? The rest, I think, for you seeing. Maybe she has a challenge.
Yes, teacher.
Okay, any question on that presentation? These are very easy numbers. I think you can see they're very simple. You just need to identify the base year and the current year. Then express them as a percentage. Namugenyi Diana has raised a hand. Yes, Namugenyi?
Teacher, why do you say it has increased by 80%, not 180?
Yeah. Even Tushime Silvia says, how can it be 180%? Have you heard of what happened in Zimbabwe? Why do I say, we assume, okay, let me first answer this lady's question, I might forget. Have you had a question? She says, why do I say it has increased by 80%? Note, we assume the item performed at 100% in the base year. We assume that the percentage it scored in the base year was 100 what? Percent. So any percentage that comes in, if it is less than 100, then the price has fallen. If it is greater than 100, it means it has increased. So whoever, then the other one was saying, why do I say it has increased by 80, not 180? It's because I subtract 100 minus 180. And then also someone has asked me, how come there is a percentage greater than 180? My friend, there is even a percentage which reached 2,000. Did you hear of the inflation tendency in Zimbabwe? Have you heard of what happened when Mugabe was put on sanctions? You needed to take a wheelbarrow of money to buy a loaf of bread. You needed over 20 million to buy a loaf of bread. So if the loaf of bread, for example, in Uganda is, what is the amount? 5,000? For me, I take super loaf. It is 5,000. Yeah? And this 5,000, maybe the new current price, we don't know. But it was 5,000 then it is now costing 20 million. They can ask you, what is the cost of bread? You can lose these two zeros with this one. When you cross multiply the two, you get x is equal to 50 times 20, you get 1,000 times 10 power 6. It means the bread was costing 1 billion. With this 1 billion, the percentage, the percentage, sorry, I wanted to check if it is 2,000. I think I didn't compute it real. I wanted to assume it was 2,000%. So if it was 2,000%, let me show you that you can have a percentage greater than that. If this is 2,000%, then check the price of bread. The price of bread will be x is equal to 50 times 2,000, which will give us 10,000. If bread in Uganda right now is 5,000, and then the world puts sanctions on us by 2022, and the price of bread now becomes 100,000, then we shall have had inflation at a percentage which is 2,000%. So, madam, it is very possible to have a percentage greater than what? 100. So whoever was thinking that you can't have a percentage greater than 100, it is possible. What are sanctions? Sanctions are, they can stop importation of wheat. They say countries stop selling to Uganda. They increase everything. So they stop selling us fuel, they stop bringing in, they stop importation of items actually. So when they put sanctions on us, an embargo, we do not import anymore. When we don't import anymore, everything is going to increase in price here. When they increase in price, we are going to suffer. When we start suffering, if my car takes 50,000 now, by then it will take maybe 500,000. You know what it means? If school fees you're paying 1.2 million, we shall ask you to pay 6 million. So that we can also match our standards of living, match your standards of living, match your parents' expectation. So it means everything gets inflated. So I think those are the questions on that
Can you
number.
explain again?
Pardon?
Can you explain again about that inflation?
I'm saying if that someone was asking me, sir, how can inflation go beyond 100%? And I've said there is a possibility of getting beyond 100%. And according to these quantities we are discussing now, we assume the base year performed at 100%. So what comes in the current year should either be beyond 100% or less. If it is beyond, then the product is performing well. If it is less than 100%, then the product is performing poorly. So the investors have to check their performance. Okay? But I was saying that if, for example, Uganda misbehaves, for example, let me give the live example. Me, I'm a scientist. I don't run people around the table. If we vote Kyagulanyi and Kyagulanyi wins the election and the president who is sitting says, I will not leave power, and he tells the outside countries, I will not, they will say, okay, you have refused to seize leadership. Uganda has been sanctioned. Uganda, not tourists are supposed to come to Uganda. So they will start giving passports saying, well, even South Africa one time experienced it. Even in 1994, it was still going on. They said, you can travel all the countries in the world apart from South Africa. So they can also put that embargo. Travel all the countries in the world apart from Uganda. So no more tourists will come. We shall be broke. Tourists contributed around 5 trillion to Ugandan budget. If they say no more importation of items to Uganda, no more most of our wheat here, all the bread, all the cakes, all the wheat-made items we enjoy, we don't grow it in Uganda. If we grow it, it is at a very small scale. So all the wheat is imported from Canada, from the Canadian prairies. You heard of them in geography. Now they tell Canada, stop exporting to Uganda. We get trouble. So everything will increase in price. So South Africa, because of the apartheid thing they had, the whites never wanted them, so they also put sanctions on them whenever they could riot. So those challenges can bring about price changes, cost of living change, and even standards of living change. Let me give you another example. The wages of nurses in 1998 was 75,000. The wages of the same nurses were increased by 50,000 in 2001. Using 1998 as the base year, calculate the nurses' wage index. If I go for that number, there is a chart here. You fix by apologizing or what? Hey, fixing what? Fixing the sanctions. Please, you divert me a lot from math. You can go and read about these things online, or ask some of the economics or history guys. But how do you fix the problem of these prices? One, the government can. One of the problems governments do, they print more money. That is what Mugabe did. Even Amin was sanctioned. And of course, what they did, they said, if they are refusing to give us their dollars, because what they do, the US stops giving you dollars. So you're not supposed to transact with their dollars. So you can't buy anything. Most things are bought with dollars. So what they do, they print more money as a country. which is very wrong. When Uganda prints more money, inflation is going to occur. Because why does inflation occur? It's because people have more money in their hands. Whenever people have money in their hands, sorry, I was good at also economics, so that's why I'm speaking these things, because this concept is also taught in economics. So if they get more money, that's like I told you, if you have 100,000, yeah, with you, my God, me yesterday I got some money. I went to Java's and I had the lunch. But when I don't have money, home, lunch is home. I sacrifice as much as possible and I have my lunch from home. Now that is what money does. That if the money printed is in much and it is a lot in saturation, very many people will go and buy things without negotiating. They will buy things expensively. If you come to buy a piece of land, that's how land and meat became expensive. The Sudanese came and bought land here in dollars. Hey, people woke up. They bought meat, cows in dollars. A cow was 500,000. But when Sudanese came, they bought cows at 1 million. Shoop! All the meat started shooting every year. That is the problem of inflation, of having so much money in the country. You get a lot of money in the country, then you inflate items. Okay, now let's answer our question. So our question, we have 1, the wage in the base year. The wage in the base year was 75,000. The wage in the current year has increased by what? They have said it has increased by 50,000. So you add on 50. Now the new wage is 120 what? 25,000. So the wage relative shall be 125,000 divided by 75,000 times 100%. You can lose these ones with these ones. 75 with this one goes there how many times? By 5 here, 25. 25 here goes 5. 25 here goes 3. 5 divided by 3, you get 1.667 recurring. So the answer is 166.67%. So it means the wages of the nurses has increased by 66.67%. Now, some of these things, whenever they're talking about, you don't watch business news. Do you watch business news on TV? Whenever the news are ending, they give sports news and business news. Now, they talk about some of these percentages, but you didn't know what they mean. Even foreign exchange increased by this percentage, blah, 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 blah. They are using some of these comparisons. Okay? So be very vigilant on some of these items. So we can have that down.
Comment.
Comment. The comment is the wages of the nurses has increased by 66.7%. So wages have increased by 66.67%. So today we are going to stop at only this first item. Then next week we shall merge other items so that we have more items. But I want to give one more example. Juko, your hand is up?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
I was like, okay, let's give an assumption. Let's give an assumption that your percentage is 224%. And you have to comment.
You said we make sure that we mention that the thing is the item performed at 100%. So your
In the
answer is
base year.
124 as your comment.
Your comment will
Yes.
say, for example, if it's an increase in price of the commodity, then you'll say the price of the commodity has increased by 124%. That is why you'll grow up and you'll get jobs. Then they ask you, when you perform very well, they ask you, by how much do you want us to increase your salary? It is not good to mention to them, if you're earning 1 million, to tell them, I want you to give me 10 million. So for you, what you do, you say it's 10 out of 1 times 100. Or to get 10 million, for example, it means you're looking for what percentage to give you 10 million. Now, if you're looking for the percentage, you'll have 10 million out of 1 million times 100. So the millions will cancel. Then you'll have increased by 1,000%. So you tell them, you increase my salary by 1,000%. How much is that? You tell them, compute. If you're a good employee, you even cross-cut your legs and start shaking one of the feet. I know of a friend, he went and did an interview with whites, and they asked him, how much money do you want? He told them, I want $7,000 per month. They said, okay, he was good at IT, did something for them. So they said, okay, no. It was his first time. We shall increase you slowly by slowly, but can we please start with $6,500? Do you know how much money it is? You just multiply 6,500 times 3,700. That is the amount this guy was going to earn. That's what, 25 million?
Yes, teacher.
25 million per month. Uganda net pay. Now, if they ask him to increase, then you can say, now I want to earn 30,000 per month. So you go back, you do your computation as percentages, then tell them, give me a day, let me think about it. Never rush. When they say, how much money do you want? Never rush, relax. Go back home and compute. Then come back tomorrow. You can actually compute and see all your expenses, see your cost of living, see your standard of living, then come back. Then you give them a figure. The reason why you have to go and look at your cost of living and standard of living, when they ask you to defend the money you want, you have the justification. I want 30,000 because, one, I stay in Munyonyo. In Munyonyo, I have security guards which are costing me 1 million. In Munyonyo, I order delivery for items which is worth 700,000 per week. In Munyonyo, blah, 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 blah. So you give them the cost of living so that they can see the relevance of the money you're asking for. Okay? So with that, people can be in position to negotiate very well. So never rush a negotiation of payment before looking at those items. Someone say, teacher, I have a question in line with he's saying it out. We go around it as our next example. Which question do you have? Then someone has said, why do we increase the price of foreign currency like in dollars? How the price of the foreign currency increases is by, one, if you have less of imports coming in the country, then you're in trouble. The price of the dollar will increase. The more dollars you have, before we had gold reserves, but now we don't have gold reserves. Most countries now sold out their gold reserves. So we have dollar reserves. So the more dollars you have, the higher value of your money. The less dollars you have, the lower the value of your money. So if your value of the money you have is low, one of the signs of having low value of money is having so many notes. For example, for you never saw we had the 5 shilling note, 10 shilling, we went to 50, we went to 100, we went to 200, we went to 500, we went to 1,000. But as we speak now, 1,000, the note I think is about to be erased, and then we have a coin for 1,000. Then we have 5,000, we have 10,000, we have 20,000, we have 50K. One time the governor was talking about 100K, but the more they bring those notes, just know Uganda is in trouble. Cost of living is going high, low bank reserves for for dollars. Trouble is coming our way whenever that is happening. So what do they need to do? They need to see how best they can improve the production of items in Uganda so that we export more. As we export, we sell, they give us dollars, we bring them back. But if the exports are less than the imports, that is what is happening to Uganda. We export less and we import a lot. We import and go and buy dollars and use them to purchase. We don't bring them to our country. But when you export, you sell, they give you dollars, you bring them to Uganda. So the more dollars we bring, the more stable we shall be in our items. Mukwaya Shafiq says can't hear me. Mukwaya, maybe you muted yourself. Of the worker in each grade in 1978 and 1988. The final column shows the index number of these wages in 1988, taking 1978 as the base year. So we have here grade, we have weekly wage, we have index number.
Are you writing on the board?
Yes, please. You can't see.
I'm not seeing any.
How about the rest?
That I'm not seeing anything moving.
They appear in installments.
Shami, I'm confused
I'm writing a question.
about the question.
The question says there are 4 grades of workers in the factory. The table below shows the average weekly wage in pounds of the worker in each grade in 1978 and 1988. The final column shows the index number. I'll post them also on the group of the wages in 1988, taking 1978 as the base year. So we have here 1978. Can you see them now? 1988.
Yes, teacher.
Okay. So this is the table. We have grade 1, 2, 3, up to 4. 120, 150, Y, 170. We have 192, 285. All these are in pounds. We have 350. We have Z. We have 160. We have X. We have 200. We have 250. So these are the index numbers. So the index we are also given. So the question says, find values of X, Y, and Z. So you can have the question down. Okay. According to this question, we have grade 1. In 1978, grade 1, the person was earning 120 pounds. Then in 1992, the person was earning, in 1988, the person was earning 192. Then the index number or the price relative is 160 for that grade 1. Now grade 2, we have the base year. Grade 2, the base year wage is 1978, which is 150. Then the current year wage of 1988 is 285. The index number is the wage relative they're asking for, was given as X. So the question wants us to find X. Oh, someone has posted a number on the chat. I don't know whether time allows us. Should I first look at his number? Or I first do this one? So the wage relative is equal to wage in the current year over wage in the base times 100.
First,
Yeah? Which gives us get the answer. COVID has attacked me from the car.
Oh my.
190%.
190.
Percent.
So the index number here is 190%. So sometimes they should not confuse you that index number. The index number, they are talking about the wage relative, the price relative. So it is in percentages. Unless if they just say it is 1.9. When they say it is 1.9, it means they have not expressed it as 100%. Hannah Wakise can't see the whiteboard. I don't know why. Then we have part 2. Part 2, we have the wage index in the base year as Y. The wage index in the current year as 350. The wage relative is 200. So the wage relative, remember, is given by wage in the current year over wage in the base year times 100%. This will give me 350 over Y times 100 is equal to 200. So here you just make Y the what? The subject. When you make Y the subject, what answer do you get for Y?
175.
175, eh? So Y is equal to 350 times 100 over 200. And the answer is 175. Those are pounds. Then the last one, Z, you have the current wage as Z, base year wage as 170. The wage relative was 250. So the wage relative is equal to wage in the current year over wage in the base year times 100. So 250 will give us what? Z over 170 times 100. Then you can make Z the subject, which is 170 times 250 over 100. What answer do we get?
425.
425 pounds. $425. We have 5 minutes. I wanted to look at this man's number. If you look at our charts, there's a number someone has sent. In 2012, the price index of a commodity was 112. And in 2014, the index using 2012 as the base year was in 2012, the price index of a commodity using 2008 as the base year. This is the price relative. This is the price index, which is 112.
Excuse me, teacher.
Yes, please.
Teacher, some of us have not received the question.
It is on the chart. You go to the chart.
It's only on your chat.
It's maybe it's on your chat.
Wait. You guys can't see the chat when people are posting.
Shall I send it to only you?
Let me see. How do I send it to all of you? The person who has just posted the number, you send it to the group.
Teacher, copy and paste.
I'm trying to copy and paste, but it's not allowing. I can't post it. Maybe I can post it where? I can't release it here.
Let him send the whole group to the whole of us.
Eh?
Let him send all of us on the chat.
Yeah, that's what. Hey, to all of you in the chat. Yeah. I'm trying to chat. Guys, this guy should send you the number. Please send them the number. So it says in 2012, the price index of the commodity using 2008 as the base year. 2008, the price index is 112%. They never put the percentage, but because they said it is the price index, you put the percentage. In 2014, the index using 2012, wow. We don't know the price here. Then 2012, we also don't know the current price. Let me call it P1. Then using, in 2014, using the index using 2012 as the base year. 2012 as the base year. So this is P1 is behaving as the base year in 2014. The price relative was, let me call it PR prime, was 85%. But this question, guys, this question time is not enough. Economics is on my door. Let me do this question on the chat. If people don't get me on the chat, on the WhatsApp group, I'll come back next time before I start more commodities. I will start with this number because this one requires designing simultaneous equations. It's quite long. I think he got it from some UNEB question. Let me handle it when everyone has got the question, because if I do it like this, people might not be in position to understand what I'm doing. They might think I'm doing my own stuff. So please share the question to everyone. Also take it to the WhatsApp group so that people can have the question. Okay. So otherwise, let's stop here and we shall meet again. Physics, we shall meet again at 3:30. I hope I'll be back from the barrier ceremony. Okay.
I read for you guys.
If you can read very fast before the teacher comes in, please do so.
Okay. In 2012, the price index of a commodity using 2008 as a base year was 112, 112. In 20